Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order. It is Friday. We have the Toledo Rockets in town. They have arrived, and they are playing the Buckeyes tomorrow night, 7 o'clock start for a MAC game, which I don't really love, but it is what it is. Super excited about this week. I think there's a lot of growth to be had. This is a much, much more dangerous opponent than Arkansas State was. Do I think we'll win? Yes. Do I think that Toledo will put up much more of a fight? Yes, I think that they gave Notre Dame all they could handle last year. I think they're the best team in the MAC, and I think that they could legitimately beat half the teams in the Big Ten this year because they're really coached up, really skilled, and they've always been a competitive organization for probably like the last 10 years or so. So this isn't a team that we want to look past, but we do want to stomp the fire out earlier. That being said, as always, we are thankful for you guys and gals, grateful for you guys. You guys drive the bus here on Buckeye Scoop, on the Scoop World Order. We are growing like crazy on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for your support. It might get old, but it doesn't get old for me saying it to you guys because I love you guys. You guys are really killing it right now. Comment, what do you want to see out of this Toledo game? Do you want to see pressure from the defensive ends? Do you want to see the interior running game improve? What do you want to see? And what are you doing for the game? I always like to see, are you going out to eat? Are you going to go watch it at your house, watch it at your man cave, watch it with your buddies at a party? Are you going to the game? Let me know what your plans are. I always love hearing what you guys are up to. Thank you guys again for subscribing. Please leave a like on this video. It is a huge help. That being said, going to bring in my good friend, Nevada. Nevada, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Been interesting time around the Woody Hayes and around the Ohio State practice facility this week. They're changing up some things, getting ready for the Big Ten schedule, but it starts with a game in between with Toledo, and so I think it's definitely an exciting time to be around the Ohio State program.
Yeah, and Nevada, you talk about how it's a little bit different in the Woody Hayes. Obviously, leading up to Notre Dame, I feel like they probably had to change the mentality a little bit just in terms of getting guys, making sure guys are healthy, ready to go, because that was a real opponent to start. Now you kind of have the soft underbelly of the schedule with Arkansas State, Toledo, before you play the mighty Wisconsin Badgers. Talk a little bit about the mentality, what you've heard from inside the Woody Hayes, how things have changed up over these past 2 weeks, as opposed to a normal Big Ten week of practice.
Well, you got to kind of bifurcate things in terms of like a normal week of practice. Basically, you're practicing your offense against a scout team that's kind of emulating the other team's defense, or your defense against a team that's emulating the scout team, the other team's offense. Now this week they've been going one-on-one or best on best, where they're going the Ohio State offense running against the Ohio State defense, the ones versus the ones. And I think that's really an effort by Ohio State to kind of, ratchet it up a little bit, and kind of, they realize that the competition the last couple of weeks, Arkansas State and this week against Toledo, isn't as going to be as high as they're going to be facing down the road. They want to get the guys, in a higher operational tempo, a little different frame of mind. So they've changed it up this week. And this week, like I said, they're going best on best, ones versus ones, which is a change than what they've done the previous 2 weeks. And as a result, the practices and the tempo it's been a lot more physical. There's been a lot more hitting. There's been a lot more activity this week than there's been, in the recent past. And I think Ohio State's trying to build up. They're trying to, like, every time you're trying to build up to a crescendo, they're trying to build up to the opener, for the Big Ten opener against Wisconsin. And Toledo's kind of in between now and then, but they feel like they've got enough firepower to get past them without having to spend too much time on Toledo prep. But it's definitely been a kind of a wild and woolly week at the Woody Hayes Center, and Ohio State, I think, is getting ready. They're definitely getting angry, getting mean, and the hitting's been fierce this week.
Yeah, and I think Ryan Day is well aware that we're not good enough. We're not anywhere near where we need to be to win a national title. I think that it's a process. Thankfully, we don't have to win one tomorrow. We have months of practice and preparation, but you have to turn the intensity up when you don't like what you see on film. And I don't think Ryan is pleased with certain areas of the team. I think that all areas can be more productive, frankly, and I think that when you do good on good, ones versus ones, it sends a message to the team that, guys, get ready. This is going to be a big, hard ferocious practice because as a former player, I knew basically the difficulty of the practice was based on how much I had to go against Vernon Golston and Cam Hayward. Because if it was all scout teamwork, I'm going against guys that are young kids, walk-ons. The tempo isn't nearly as intense. It's not a game rep like it is like when you're going against Vernon and Cam. Like when we go 101D, there is no taking care of each other. It is a war, and I wanted to beat Vernon, and Vernon wanted to beat me, and so did me and Cam, and that's what really makes you good. So when they do that, I think that it helps guys like JT and Jack Sawyer when they get to go against Paris and Dewan in live reps, but it also helps the young guys, specifically the young receivers going against the young corners, J.K. Johnson, the guys that, are, instead of having to go over and play scout team and run a defense, you run Toledo's defense off of a card, they're actually running their real defense and getting a real live rep. And I think evaluations continue right now with, developing depth and figuring out who are the next men up, in the secondary, the wide receiver room, the offensive line, and you need these live reps. Nevada, what else have you heard from in the Woody Hayes? I mean, we're counting down. We're about 24 hours out or so. What else are you hearing from inside the WAC?
Well, I mean, there's been some real concern and something we've been talking about a lot on the board about. You've talked about this for the last couple of weeks about our wide receiver depth, and how a position that we've been recruiting just at a historic levels, that all of a sudden we're kind of thin, and we're looking to some young guys to step up and produce. And I think there's some genuine concern, about the development path of some of the younger guys. I know they're young. I know that there's lots of football ahead of them, but I think that there's just a little bit of healthy concern on behalf of Ohio State that some of these guys need to step up, have to step up, and haven't stepped up yet. And they're starting to put the pressure on them to do so because we lost a lot of production last year. I mean, essentially with Jackson Smith and Jigba being out this year, you've lost your top 3 wide receivers from last year, and it's not as easy. I mean, I think we've been spoiled as Ohio State fans over the past decade with guys like McLaurin and Campbell and Dixon and KJ Hill, and I just go on and Olave and Wilson and just go on and on, that we've had receivers come in and make it look easy, and it's just not easy. It's not easy to come in and be a productive college receiver. It's not easy to step in and play as well as some of these guys have. And right now with with Fleming hurt, with Jackson Smith and Jigba hurt, even though we expect them back this week, we're missing our 1 and our 4, wide receiver right there. And it leaves us with 2, 3, and a bunch of question marks. And, I think for Ohio State, this is a time where some of these young guys are going to be forced into action. They're going to be asked to step up and start, making plays and doing better. We're going to see if the cream rises to the top, which, again, I never thought we'd be talking about wide receivers being an issue. Now, again, it's a difference between it's not a weakness. It's not a fatal flaw for the team. That's not the way to describe it at all. But it is an issue. It's something to keep an eye on, is which of the young wide receivers are going to step up and kind of, assume that mantle of the next great one at Ohio State. And I think it's a great opportunity for some guys. And I think this week is going to be, exhibit A of who's rising and who may be just kind of stalling on the depth chart.
Yeah, and Kojo Antway lost his black stripe. I think that they're trying to get some of these guys ready to go because, again, with football, you're always good until you're not good in terms of depth by position group. Again, we've seen some traumatic injuries over the past 10 years. I mean, Braxton Miller, Heisman favorite, shoulder falls out during training camp, and you got to turn to JT, or we've got Jackson Smith and Jigba's dinged up. So I mean, you're only, if someone like a knock on wood, pray to God this never happens, someone like a Paris Johnson goes out, like, you're scrambling. It doesn't matter who you are. You lose an All-American like Jackson Smith and Jigba, guys have to rise up to be, that are normally number 2's got to be the number 1s now. And it's always something that you're constantly worried about as a coach. And that's part of the balance of how much 1s versus 1s good on good you do versus how much scout team do you do. The 1s versus 1s is much more physical. It's like literally playing in a game. It's like scrimmaging. The scout team work is generally much less physical. It's generally fitting up and making sure it's not a Simon check, but it's a little bit above that. But it's not just like the knockdown drag out that the 1s versus 1 stuff is. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if any of these young guys start to get in the mix, if they start playing some special teams, if they start maybe getting a shot to return a punt late in the game, because anytime you can get a Mecca off the field. I think that's a big reason why we're seeing Chip Trayanum as the kick returner this week. Is they got to get a Mecca, and he's the number 2 receiver now. You can't have him back there and he gets hurt on a kickoff return when you've got 20 guys that could be doing that, and he's your number 2 receiver. So you gotta keep him fresh because he's gonna be playing a lot without Jackson Smith and Jigba. I know that Ryan Day said that we should have Fleming and Babin and Jigba, but I never believe that. I always feel like that's always just kind of gamesmanship because on game day we'll get there and they'll do the availability list and it'll say game time decision Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cam Bab, and they'll hold them. They won't play them. So it's interesting. Nevada, what are you looking for improvement wise out of the team this week versus Toledo? This is a much more capable opponent than last week. This is kind of a nice level jump before we get to Wisconsin. What are you looking for out of this team? What do you want to see improve? What do we need to get better at?
Well, I think defensively, I think you're going to see Knowles. The defense is going to take just another step in their evolution, and I think Knowles is going to start releasing a little bit more of their blitz packages. I think they've been showing that a little bit more this week, in this best on best type of competition. Ohio State's really been showing, primarily a double A gap blitz type of format. And now I think they're going to start overloading sides. They're going to start dropping defensive ends. They're going to start showing stuff that's a little bit more exotic, walking up safeties, things like that, just to give teams something to think about as they head into the Big Ten schedule. And, offensively, what I like to see, I'd like to see a more full commitment to the run. I'd like to see a little bit more cohesion on the offensive line. I'd like to see I'd love to see Jackson Smith and Jigba and Fleming out there and catching some passes and the thing cooking. But, as you said, you're only one injury away from having a problem. I mean, I would take what your comments earlier one step further. I mean, what if CJ Stroud got hurt tomorrow and we go to Kyle McCord? Would we be okay? Yeah. I mean, Kyle's a good quarterback, highly regarded, great, is he as good as CJ? No, he's not. So could one injury like that have a profound impact? Yeah. And that's why, like I said, with the wide receiver room where you're missing 1 and 4, it hurts. And, if you lost to Paris Johnson on the offensive line, it would hurt. If you lost, a CJ Stroud, or if you lost Trey Henderson and then Mike Williams got banged up and now you're down to Dallin Hayden and Caden Saunders, it just, you're always one injury away from not being as good as you think you are. And I think for Ohio State, they've just got to kind of muddle through this right now, kind of get healthy, which is the biggest thing they need to do heading into the Big Ten schedule. And I think things will start becoming more cohesive, and I think things will start clicking in all cylinders because, I know that Ryan Day and the staff are not happy with where the team is right now after 2 weeks. Not concerned, not feeling that they're not national championship worthy, because I think they're absolutely national championship worthy. But we need to take another step this week, and I think we will.
Yeah, I agree. There's no way the coaching staff is happy with where we're at, other than the fact that we are 2-0. We do control our destiny, but outside of that, it's the product hasn't been where it needs to be. And for a lot of teams, they found it out the hard. Teams like Texas A&M, teams like Notre Dame, they're in much worse predicaments than we are. But at the same time, Ryan and that offensive staff knows that we got to get better interior push in the run game. We got to get more out of our running backs. You got to design more touches. I don't think that our guys are getting open in the throwing game in terms of their routes, their releases, their top ends. There's a lot of stuff that could be a lot better, a lot cleaner. And frankly, I think CJ Stroud's got room to grow. He had a gaudy stat line last week versus a bad team, but he's missed some throws that frankly I think he should make. He's skipped a couple in there, and again, he's not perfect. He's not a robot. I get that, but there's always room for growth. Defensively, obviously, we've had a high level starter pulled in the back end, 2 weeks in a row. So I'm sure guys like Denzel Burke, playing against a kid that frankly should never beat him, that beat him like a drum. He wants to play better. I'm sure Josh Proctor wants to keep growing. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. And Toledo's they're going to be real. Like these teams that come into the horseshoe, people always just look at the jersey and they say, oh, it's the Toledo Rockets. It's a MAC school. It'll be easy. But in 2011, the last time we played these guys, they almost beat us. They were on the 20-yard line going in, and by the miracle of God, John Simon got a sack to end the game. But you never know when you play these teams that are well coached, and it's their Super Bowl. It's not our Super Bowl, but it's their Super Bowl. So these guys are going to play out of their minds and do everything they can to show Ohio State that they missed on them. And that's something that it's always a real thing with the lower tier Big Ten schools and the MAC schools is that none of those kids got offered by Ohio State. So, or else they'd be at Ohio State. These kids at Michigan State and Purdue and Toledo and those types of schools. So we're gonna get some hellacious effort. And they're gonna play harder against us than they want any other team because they want to prove that they should have been at an A-list school like Ohio State. Well, to wrap this thing up, Nevada, any closing statements? We are, like I said, we're about 24 hours away from kickoff. But what are your thoughts? The final little bit we have before we see the Rockets on Saturday night.
No, I just think, for Ohio State fans, we always like to give you a little something that you didn't know before or try to make you a little bit smarter. But I would really focus on those young wide receivers. I'd watch those wide receiver rotations, see who they're bringing in there, see, are they featuring them? Are they giving them looks? I thought that the timing on the black stripe removal Gojo today was interesting in that I think that they're trying to, bring some of these guys along, fill them with confidence. But that the wide receiver room is something I would definitely keep an eye on because I think there's going to be a lot of intrigue and a lot of guys, rising, a lot of guys falling. And as an Ohio State fan, that's definitely an area that I'd watch. I think it'll be very interesting this weekend against Toledo.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be fantastic to see if any of these young guys get in the rotation at all, or if any of the guys that have been hurt. How much do you play Jackson Smith and Jigba with a hamstring? I mean, that's a is it 10 plays? Is it 20 plays? I mean, there's no way that he's going to get a full script of the 45 or 50 plays that he normally would play. What do you get out of Cam Babb? What do you get out of blanking our number 4, Julian Fleming? Is his shoulder hold up? I mean, we've had guys that they look great, they look physically great, they've had nice camps, but they get dinged up. So these guys they're gonna figure out what you can get out of these guys, especially the guys that are hurt. But with that being said, I'm going to wrap this thing up. Appreciate you guys as always. This is another fantastic episode. Appreciate you guys. We are on fire on Buckeye Scoop right now. Our new insider, the Humping Technician, had 2 huge nuggets talking about the offensive line and the wide receiver. Those both really caught fire. Tons of views, tons of responses. He is very candid when he gives criticism. So it's a different level than me or Nevada. So he does not hold back, but it is some really good stuff. Would love to see you on BuckeyeScoop.com. That is our premium message board. We have a premium experience. We have the best insiders. We have Bill the Bank Green. He's doing his all-day chat on every Thursday. The best inside content on South Florida recruiting, Georgia recruiting. We're just cranking away right now, and I literally can't wait to get back on the board. As soon as I'm done with this episode, I'm climbing right back on the board. I'll be grinding away, posting, answering questions, talking to subscribers. It really is a treat, and it is a blast. So I think if you guys have not been a part of a premium forum, you guys should give us a try because you guys will probably love it. So with that being said, appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.